What is up, everyone? So in the last video and the videos before that, I've been talking about how badly I want to get this thing running, right? We've been doing a lot of travel and been running around a lot. We haven't been able to work on it as much as possible. The last few days, we have spent every waking moment of our lives just trying to tidy up all the little stuff, right? You do all the big stuff for the videos, you try to get much done, and then there's still a bunch of little stuff behind the scenes that just never ending.
Last 10% takes 90% of the time.
That is a fact. So we've been trying to tidy everything up. I had to finish up all the wiring because if you guys remember when we put the harness in, we had to still wire in all of the connectors. So banged all that out. Spoon has been working on the cooling system the last couple of days. We're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. The last major hurdle right now is the starter. I overnighted the starter on Monday. It's still not here. Today's Thursday. So hopefully it shows up today because I want to hear this thing run today. Right? That's the goal. We've built so many cars from like shell up, and every time we do another project, I'm always like, wow, it's a lot of work. Like one day it'll sink in. Right? That is the goal for today. We're gonna try our best to make it happen. If not, well, that's life, right? We're gonna make it happen though. I'm gonna make it pop and bag at least. Hey, what?
There is FD right behind you we can steal the starter from.
I think it's a different starter.
Are they?
Yeah. Or else I would take it out right now. Wah, wah, wah. What we can do right now is I have enough wiring hooked up that we should be able to get power to the chassis for the first time. And we did cut up the chassis harness real bad. I mean, good, but we cut it up a lot. So let's put power to it and see if things work. So I had all the time in the world. I was able to properly relocate my battery. Don't touch. The hard part's done. The wires ran. I hear things clicking.
Oh, turn signal's on.
Good, something works.
Hey, okay, they shut off. All right, headlights. Oh, yes. That is the easiest thing to not work.
I kinda know what I'm doing.
Oh, no. We accumulatively cut a lot of wires out of this car. If you guys remember the chassis harness. Oh, I love that. Look at that. In sync. Will they do the FD thing where they go like this? Probably not. Oh, they're going! Oh, they're going! Headlights work. That's sick. Do we have turn signals in this thing?
Pop-ups are so cool.
No, they're not the bumper. Pop-ups are the best thing ever. This thing is adorable. So the funny thing is, at this point, the engine harness used to integrate massively into the chassis harness. But since we put a standalone harness in, it really doesn't much anymore. So realistically, all we needed in the chassis harness was for the headlights to work, right? Check one. So next test is the fuel system. We gotta see if it leaks. That's a fun one. Before we do that, we have to pre-mix our fuel, right? Since the rotary gets most of its lubrication through the fuel, you have to put oil in your fuel, right? Pre-mix, like a 2-stroke dirt bike. So we're gonna go a little heavy on it, and we're gonna go 1 ounce per gallon on the pre-mix. Sick. All right. Also, while I have you guys, if you guys missed out on the LZ World Tour stop in Jersey, the next event we have coming up is we will actually be going to Chicago for the very first time. I'll be there June 3rd for the Clean Culture event at Route 66 Speedway, June 3rd, hosted by Clean Culture. I'll put the link in the description if you want to pre-buy your tickets now. It makes things a lot easier. Or if you want to attend the car show that is also there, submit, link in description. Of course, hop below, cop some tickets, and see you guys in Chicago. But for now, let's hope this thing doesn't leak, dude. Everything's fine, Austin. So since I didn't have time to wire up a fuel pump relay, we are going to be using a power probe.
To give power to the fuel pump?
Right. I'll wire, see, like bolting this up, doing the relay. No one don't want to see that. We just want to see the fun stuff. Do we wing it? No. Give me a second. Black is grounds and black and white is power. So I need you to yell if there's any fuel leaks. Okay, the injectors seat a little funny. We have a DW400 in this thing, so it's gonna bark.
I don't see anything yet. I hear fluid, but I don't see anything dripping.
You good?
Good job.
So far.
All right. 2 for 2, baby. Time to find out if I did all the engine harness wiring correctly. And of course, you guys know our favorite ECU, Link G4X Fury. Best ECU out there. Love it. It's always done us really good. I actually had to steal this out of the Koki because I need one. Link, can I have a Fury? Remember, guys, I took a Haltech harness and refitted it for a Link. I also had to add a couple things in there, like a wideband that wasn't in there before, so I repurposed a bunch of the wires that we weren't using, and hopefully all that works. I hate this so much, but if I ground this, the engine harness and ECU should kick on, right? Survey says, oh. That's kicking on. Sick. It's good. I just got a wire relay in, all right? Theme with today's video, just needs a relay. Now it's time to set up our base map, right? So we took a Haltech harness, we added a bunch of sensors to it, we repinned it for a link, and now what do we do, right? Big question. Since we kept track of where we pinned everything in the harness, we know where to define it in the ECU, right? To make things a little bit easier, Link does have a plug and play for the FD. And so I'm starting with the base map from an FD plug and play. So like all like the standard rotary stuff, like a couple of background things are already set. We don't have to set up everything from scratch. Realistically, what we have to set up first is just where our sensors are and what kind of sensors we have. Lock timing. Vroom. Whack the TPS for me. Aha, 3 for 3, baby. Getting there. Oil pressure, check. Fuel pressure, check. Coolant temp, check. Intake air temp, TPS. And now let's check if the coils are firing. You want to be the guy?
Yeah.
Grab the plug wire and hold it, and if it shocks you, it works.
You know.
Hear anything?
Yeah.
What about now?
Still going.
What about now?
Not going.
Nothing? Problem number 1, coil 4 isn't firing, but swirl pot's on. That thing looks sick. It's crazy to think that Spoon made that from like an intercool piping and an old radiator. Looks fancy, Spoon. It's pinned, right? Looks sick. Found out why the 4th one wasn't sparking. So the FD map, the FD actually uses wasted spark for the coils where they only have 2 coils, where since we went to 4 coils, we were using direct spark for leading and the trailing coils. Make sense? Yeah. Sick. So fix that, we're good. So the wideband does work, by the way. It just wasn't plugged in. So, love that. That's the best part about the Fury. Not the fact that it's just a great ECU and it has a bunch of IOs and extras. It has an internal wideband, so you don't have to like add a CAN lambda or AM gauge, nothing. Wideband built into the ECU. Best part. I put the injector size in quickly, I put the draw in for the coils, and the last thing we have to do is put in our trigger settings. Since we did an aftermarket crank sensor on it, we did a little VR sensor with 36 missing 1 trigger wheel, you see that? So we're gonna put that in, and then we wait for the starter to show up.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. I don't know if I'm happy or if I'm mad, Austin. The bane of my existence this whole week has been a starter for this thing. Overnight on one Monday, every day it's been, oh, the next day, whatever. So, we were just digging through parts, and I think we had to start it the whole time.
Thank you, Seamus.
Thank you, Seamus. Like, this must have came with the car. How did we not notice this before? You know, like when something's right in front of you?
Oh, yeah. It's not lost until your mom can't find it.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
We don't have no moms here.
I'm very confident this is it.
That's 100% it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Specialty bolt was with it. This is why I knew it was the right starter, because I had this damn bolt.
You need me to hit it with a screwdriver?
I'm happy you know that, Steve.
Come on, man. Oaks Garage Steve. Front Street Steve. Big FD Steve. Formula driver in his mind, Steve. One day.
I can't believe I had this the whole time, too. I've been screaming all week about this.
Jim, guys, was in a bad mood today. Not a bad mood where he was being mean to people, but a bad mood inside, I could tell. He didn't want to eat. He was in the corner. He had the look on his face where it's like, what's wrong, Jim?
I need a goddamn starter.
I need a goddamn starter. You ask the universe sometimes and it delivers. Steve O.
Another one of these. A little bit of this. And then the starter trigger straight from the harness. Let's hope this crusty thing works. Probably should have bench tested it. Whatever.
Oh, I'm snitching.
Steve, I can't be called dead doing this.
I got you. I told him I'd do it. Keep his record clean.
We're missing the filler next.
Did I miss?
No, you just went crazy with it. Bloom's modifying the filler neck right now.
Let that thing
The FD
drink up.
intake. It doesn't. Yeah, that's his favorite tool.
Beep, beep.
I have never been so like unprepared for a first start.
Yeah, you have the 86. Yeah.
Okay, you're right. No, that was unprepared in a wiring sense.
That was rigged. That was rigged.
Yeah. But for the sake of
Drink
You know.
up.
This.
This is like
Every time I walk by this thing, I'm like, oh this. We good.
Find out she leaks.
Yeah, I should look at this. But here's the crazy thing about this. There's a lot of thread ports and stuff on this engine that I don't know if they're thread holes, oil ports, coolant ports. We're gonna find out.
it's a lot of first times for Jim.
Hopefully oil doesn't get everywhere because that would be such a, if we got oil on top of the, oh, it'd be such a mess. Since there's oil in it and there's a starter in it, that means we can crank it. Crank sensors are, yeah, crank sensor is unplugged. Eccentric sensor, we'll call it a sensor, crank sensor, whatever.
Yeah.
That's all unplugged. So, starter wire. Yeah, so Spoon, look for oil squirting places and such. You hear that? You hear that compression? Compression, you can hear it in the exhaust. You hear that?
Yeah.
They do a cheat code model. You can take the guts of an RX-8 starter and put it in an RX-7 starter, and it makes it crank faster, which would be really nice. That makes it way cleaner starts. So I'm gonna do that. Thank you guys. Someone probably commented that. Shout out to Seamus for that one. Oh! Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, is it a line?
Nope. It's an open port.
It's just squirting.
That port right there.
Where? Oh yeah, factory oil pressure sensor. Who would have thought?
Oil pressure.
You got oil in there though.
I forgot the safe for. What was the safe for?
Meatball.
That was a safe place for it to leak.
Yeah.
Okay, first leak. The band-aid has been pulled.
Found it.
I guess the trigger setting's right. No, that's cool. I think it should start. Actually, we gotta shoot timing. Just like any other piston rod engine, we have to sync the engine position with the ECU, right? It needs to know where the engine is. It's just getting a crank signal, but doesn't know where basically TDC is, so it doesn't really know where to fire things. So, timing light, we lock it in, and then it should run. Hold up. Stop. And one more time. I think it's gonna start. I think it's gonna start like right off the rip. We can't run it for long because of course there's no coolant in it, which I hate starting an engine with no coolant. Usually I don't like starting cars, I guess besides the 86, until they're like almost basically ready to drive, but mentally I need to hear this thing start. This will be a big win. So obviously before, like I said, we have a bunch of relays we're gonna put in. We gotta finish up the cooling system, which is almost done, and then finish the exhaust. This thing is gonna be very smoky because it still has all the assembly lube on the inside, right? We used a lot of it. Yeah. And then, yeah, which is good. We don't want no dry rotors on the first start. It already built decent oil pressure just from cranking, which is sick. And it's gonna be really loud. 4-inch open down pipe.
Ear piercingly loud.
So,
No.
I'm ready.
are you on the fuel pump? Yeah. Really? There you go, now you're on it. All right, hit it. Hold up. Yes. Go. There's little baby fires in there. I know the first start is always the hardest one. It doesn't have much compression right now, you know, because we have like the new Apex seals that haven't seated and stuff like that. So the fast crank start would be very nice. You could tell it kind of wants to.
Yeah.
I'm gonna shoot timing one more time just for mental, because it doesn't sound like it's timed right, but let me see. Alright. Oh, kind of wanted to start. Maybe it's just flooded. Oh my god. I forgot one sensor. The one sensor I forgot was map sensor. How the flying fuck did I do this?
So now it's gonna go.
I mean, it's gonna help. That's for sure. Alright, now it actually has a map sensor, which is sick. Alright. Fuel pump. Hit it. Alright, hold up. So, it's time, just getting clean RPM. It's got injectors, all tested, coils all tested, everything's firing when it should be, it's all firing. Engine has compression. It has a map sensor now. Has every sensor now.
You got a fuel pump and a starter.
Facts. Do we like say a prayer?
I was gonna say, do we have like a Bad Bunny or something? Have a little Bad Bunny ritual. A little Hector Lavoe. La Aguanile might fix this. What do you think?
Alright. Get some brake clean. Call Vargas. Vargas is not starting. Help. Alright, kill it.
I mean, first it's cranking way too slow.
Yeah,
So out of much voltage is on that ECU.
Yeah, it's got it. It's cranking at 200 RPM. It actually gave me a little bit more puffs in our first attempt at cranking. Is there a possibility it's flooded?
Yeah, it's already flooded.
It's flooded.
Go take the top spark plugs off and see if they're wet.
Aguanile, if I'm correct, is the mother of technology. So that would be the saint that you pray to resolve this issue here. So I hope she comes through, or Vargas, one or the other.
So it's flooded. The trailing plug will be wet.
Yep.
Yeah, no, this thing's pretty soaked. I gotta clean it off. Alright,
Oh,
so we have her flooded. Makes sense. Light my hand on fire. I'll get this out of here. Get rid of that.
yeah. That's smart, Jim.
Burn it off. Gotta hit the situation. Remember guys, these things live in fire, so don't be judging me. Alright, crank it, clear this thing out. Oh, you hear those?
Nah.
Okay.
I didn't crank fast.
It's not cranking fast enough.
Yeah.
I knew I should have got the RX-8 starter. Fuel pump. Yeah. I don't know. Shit. Gotta be.
Got a starter. Couldn't get her started.
Got it started, but couldn't get it started. Alright boys, so our biggest issue so far has been the fact of referencing base timing, right? Making sure the ECU knows where the engine is. My eccentric shaft pulley should be marked with timing marks. It didn't come with it. So before I put the engine in, where I thought the engine was TDC, I marked the crank pulley, so I had a reference point. And after cranking it and throwing numbers at it, we found out that that definitely isn't TDC. I marked it wrong. The kit should come with markings, it didn't, so I just spent the last like 40 minutes trying to figure out how to find TDC on this engine. There's some crazy ways to do it, but what I noticed is we have a hole into our transmission right here in the back. You could probably see it, it's like right here, right? That's like a viewing window, and what I could see is my counterweight. And since that's key weight, I figured we could see where the counterweight is. If we know where the counterweight is at TDC, we could visibly see it and we're good to go. So I had Vargas quickly kind of put some parts together at his shop and figure out where TDC is, where the counterweight is, and it should be within 10 degrees of that. It's a really funny way of doing it, but it should be close enough to get it started, or at least now we know it's not a timing issue, which is 80% of the time you have everything you need, but it won't start. It's usually a base timing issue. I thought it was right the way I marked it before, but I don't know, I guess. So I'm new here in the rotary world. So it's close. The plugs are clean. We got fuel, we got spark. It should do something. I just want like one room, you know? Everything's great. Everything is grand. Everything is wonderful. Everything is plugged in, right? Cool. All right, fuel pump. And crank it. That was the first like bump. Yep. Bump. We heard something ignite. Whenever you're worried if there's a fueling issue, start a fluid or brake clean, right? Yeah. Spray it in. If you get it running on that, you know you have a fueling issue. If you can't run it, then it's probably a spark issue. So, or both. Both on.
Let's go.
All right, try and start it. No fuel pump.
Take a cheap win.
She ain't happy. Damn it. So close, man. So close. Alright, so Vargas thinks that our biggest issue right now is it's just not building enough compression to start, right? Especially since it's getting kind of dried and washed with fuel. So I was suggested to put a little bit of oil in each cylinder to bump the compression up, right?
Makes sense.
It does make sense. It does make sense. So it's kind of a stretch, but it does make sense. All right, oil in the cylinders. Or rotors. Let's see what happens. Dude, it was so close. You heard it?
Yes. That's what it needs, James.
Oh! Fuel pump! Did you ever fuel pump it?
Yeah.
Oh, it was so fucking close. Alright. He wants more fuel. Alright, hold up. Oh, it's got I could hear the compression. Can you brake clean it? This is silly. Hit it. Every time the battery voltage drops a little from the jump pack and the fuel pump, it lowers the RPM down like 20 or 30, which is just enough to not have enough compression to run.
We need more batteries.
No, I think I need to get the RXA starter. It should crank like 500. It should crank like 50 more RPM than this.
That's what we need. That little. It's just that.
Yeah, it wants it so bad, bro. I need you to listen to this because it sounds better, but it still won't start.
Alright.
So this is without the fuel pump on it. Like, is way happy with the fuel pump off. All right.
Okay.
Give it a shot. Oh, stop. What was that?
It's out of timing.
It is out of time, right? It sounds like it's out of time.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's trying to it's trying to go, but it's like stuck.
Do you think it's way off of time or just a little bit?
No, it's not way off. You're probably like 20 degrees off. So go, memorize where it's at. Go 20 degrees one way, then
right.
go 20 degrees.
Let's try it again. Ready, boys? All right, hold up.
Needs more.
More of what I just did. Okay.
Oh, it's so close!
Oh! Hit it with the backfire.
A little flame.
Alright, it almost started that last time we did this, so this is it. This really shows us that it's just a compression issue. You know, what's affecting the compression? You know, fresh builds, very low compression. If there's fuel in the chambers, it kind of washes the compression, right? Obviously, the faster it cranks, the higher the compression. It cranks decent. It doesn't crank super low, but it doesn't crank high. So the oil will up the compression. And if we can get this thing just to run for a little bit, it should help quite a bit. You know, like cleans out the cylinder and it helps hopefully seat some of the seals, which then will up the compression. That's the theory behind this. Give it a shot. Oh! No fuel pump. Just no fuel pump for a second. Fuel pump. Damn. It's like, it has compression for that first cycle when the oil's in it.
Yeah, you keep thinking it's going to start. It's
And then
like
it
right
just
there.
goes away. So I don't think we've ever not been able to start a car. Like, even if it like ran half-ass,
It was still running.
it was still kind of running. We've misfired some cars first start before, but this it's like the first time. We're probably not the first time, but it feels. I think it's the first time. We started a lot of cars here. Everything's there. We verified the timing is there now. That was the big one from the start. Plugs aren't getting followed out. I pull them like every time we crank the thing over. They're fine. You know, it's getting fuel. It's getting too much fuel, not enough fuel. We've tried every variation. We're giving it one last go. Vargas wants we start fresh, right?
Wow, no statuses.
Let the engine crank out, let whatever fuel's in it kind of hopefully dry up. Clean the plugs, fresh plugs in there. Put oil in the cylinder. And then we're going to not try and put the fuel pump on. We're going to try and run it just on brake clean because the brake clean won't really sit in the cylinders and lower the compression like the fuel will. So, sound good?
Yeah.
And
Don't crank until you tell me to stop.
just let it bang.
Meatball.
What?
Just yell
I'm not. You got to feel that one out.
Meatball?
That's our safe word.
Meatball is the safe word? Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
What else would it be? Quick
I want
spritz.
to.
All right, let it bang.
Check the wiring. It's running on one rotor.
It is running on one rotor, right?
Yeah, something's up with either the injector wiring or the coil wiring.
Well, that was just off the brake clean. Do you think maybe it was the way he was spraying the brake clean?
Still ran both though.
Yeah, I don't. What if you just aimed towards one runner, maybe?
Well, if you had it on brake clean, that's ignition then.
Yeah, it's ignition then. So
Yeah, so something's up with the ignition. Probably that's the issue you're having.
that makes sense. It's not running efficiently enough to actually run the thing because it's only running on one rotor. I switched the second leading coil with its trailing.
You just swapped the coil.
I just swapped the coil.
No wiring.
We tested that coil was fine, but
That's weird.
all right, boys, it ran. It ran for a little bit, but it did run on two rotors for a little bit. Now here's the problem, right? When you have stacked issues, when you do diag, it kind of diags you in circles and figure eights, right? Because you see something help, so you think it's this, but it's not that because another problem's happening, right? There's a lot of running around chasing our own tail. Figured out the timing issue. Clearly it ran half decent, which means timing's close enough for it to actually run. We had a big issue of, obviously it wasn't starting, so we were flooding the engine, which then hurts compression, and it basically kills off the spark plugs. Spark plugs have resistors in them, and then once they get kind of flooded, they just stop working until you put a bunch of heat into them. So a lot of guys will have a bunch of spark plugs when they go to start their rotor for the first time. I don't know why it was only running off one cylinder. We moved some of the coil packs around and it was fine, but we tested all the coil packs out and they were all tested fine. I tested all the wires, they all tested fine. So I don't know if that was just a weird timing thing with the spark plug not actually firing because of gummed up resistor with oil and gas or what, right? Here's one of those things where you're chasing your tail with the problems. So at this point, if we want to get it running again, I want to be able to leave it running, right? Because if we can leave it running, then we could actually get everything broken in, get everything dialed in, and let the heat actually build up in the engine, so hopefully the seals can actually seat a little bit better, and it'll start better in the future, right? We're gonna wait until we finish the cooling system fully, it's super close, to actually let this thing idle for more than, well, that was like 10 seconds. I think we got a little bit of a recipe down, put new plugs in it, get it started on the brake clean, then switch over to the fuel pump and it should be fine. Or maybe it'll just start right up now that both rotors are firing, right? And the fact that it was probably only trying to fire one rotor all day maybe was why it was like super close on the edge of starting but not actually starting. Because for a long time we were on the edge of it starting but it wouldn't start. And that's maybe most likely because it was just trying to fire one rotor, which didn't have enough engine efficiency to spin all of it. We chased our ass all day, but we heard it run. It sounded good for the 7 seconds it ran. Still a win.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, Josh says. It's late. And tomorrow I'm going to be doing like there's a little grassroots street series comp at Lock City tomorrow that I'm actually really excited about. I'm not even going to film it. I think this is good for my head.
Go have fun.
Go have
Street
fun.
Series is presented by Drift HQ.
Oh, I love that. Big Drift HQ guys out here. So it'll be great. It's just a 235 roll. We haven't touched the 350Z since Drift Week, and we got it good enough today. 350Z, Brian's driving it, so I get to drive with Brian finally. It'll be a good day. Especially after hearing my 13B start for the first time.
Small wins.
Small wins, take them.
Take them.
Take them.
We heard raps.
We did hear some quick raps. So we'll get the recipe down. There's one small dumb issue, and we're gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
So, easy peasy. Finish the cooling. Yeah. Clean Culture, Chicago, June 3rd, I think. It's the 3rd? June 3rd. See you guys there. Oh, and like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more content. Spoon.
Have a good night.